vacation just because I thought this was so done. This one is to my husband, Rex. For all the lonely nights that you endured while I was writing, waiting for the glow of my computer screen.
Yeah, I don't think I like the glow.
Absolutely. You know, it wasn't even the glow that bothered him as much as the clicking of the keys.
Patient man.
Absolutely, it certainly is. So I'll start with the prologue, and the title of that prologue is Scarred. Murdoch had a difficult time sleeping with Lamora tossing about on the bedroll beside him. Even though the tent was cool from the breeze gusting through the open flap, he could see sweat beads glistening from the moonlight on her face. Her dreams had not subsided since the battle in the Forbidden Lands, and the nightmares seemed to worsen as days slowly crept by. She had told him pieces of what haunted her during the night, but not the whole dream. She tossed from one side of the bed to the other as images of the battle washed over her. In her nightmare, her wrath for the Omat clan's leader, Jean, was lost as the sting of a heavy axe slammed into her back. She fell to the ground and squirmed in all directions as she tried to pull it free. The only being near her was the damned human Alec, whom they were sent to capture. He had to have been the one who struck her from behind. Lamora could feel her face heating up. Whether it was from rage or a loss of blood, she could not be certain, but she was losing strength and she was unable to pull the axe loose. Lightning suddenly fell from the sky all around them. Lamora could see thunderbirds speckled above as they soared back and forth around the battle. The elders and the gate's protectors rode upon their backs and led them in the attack against Vanya, as well as the darks in her company. She continued to watch as Randar, Necros, and Murdoch all feared for the protection of the basket, which Ureth had carried them into the Forbidden Lands. As they ran, Murdoch searched for Lamora among the terrified dwarves who ran about in circles. He finally spotted her injured on the ground. He was unsure if she was alive or dead. Once he reached her, he scooped her up into his arms and pulled the cover of the basket. The thunderbirds were relentless and blasted endless bolts of lightning from their eyes at Vanya in the darks. Ureth could be heard among the chaos as he shrieked at the birds. He tried to fend them off and spewed a stream of fire up into the sky directly below them. Some of the birds flew off in another direction, but quickly soared back and resumed their defense of the Omat clan, Alec, Kravitz, and Astaro. Necros and Randar hollered to Vanya and insisted that she retreat. Murdoch joined them in their efforts once he and Lamora were both inside the basket. Lamora had finally regained consciousness and also cried for Vanya to flee the battle. Lightning fell around them as the frantic dwarves scattered, trying to avoid the darks and the 100 or more sandworms that blocked their escape by forming a tight circle around their group, surrounding them in its center. The worms threatened to spit their acidic venom on any being who approached that was not of Vanya or of her company. Finally, Vanya succumbed to the others' pleas for retreat and made her way as fast as she could to the safety of Euro's hovering basket. Once she was inside, the dragon burst into flight and made his way through the clouds. He dodged the lightning thrown at him by the thunderbirds and veered in the direction of Ellen. Necros fell from the basket as Ureth fled and landed on the ground below. Vanya never looked back to see if he was alive or dead. She merely instructed her dragon not to stop. Vanya could be ruthless at times, and she was furious that her mission to capture Alec had failed. She had him, and he was within her grasp. She controlled him and his horse. He was her son, and she would not allow him to fall into the clutches of Serndale at any cost. The elders and his father had taken him from her once and had kept him from her all these years. She would reclaim him, and she and Alec would combine their powers, making a force that none could defeat. Her powers had surprised her teachers and the elders when she had been a student, and they had amplified significantly since then. Her son would be no different than she was in harnessing her own powers, and soon their powers would be merged. She knew it, but for now, she would have to regroup and plan another method of attack, one that was much bigger, because now they would be waging war against Serndale. As they were in flight, Vanya and Randar worked their magic simultaneously to perform powerful healing on Lamora after removing the axe from her back. It took a great deal of time to do all they could to keep her from falling into a darkness which they could not bring her back from. She was very weak and had lost a great deal of blood from her wound, but they were persistent and managed to keep her from certain death. She slept the entire ride back to Cardiff. Lamora had begun to settle finally, and no longer tossed about uneasily. When she had arrived at this part of her nightmare, the recollections were not as vivid or decipherable, and she was usually able to rest comfortably without disturbance, as was Murdoch. The morning after was always the same. Lamora was irritable with everyone. She wanted to forget the dream, but wasn't able to do so. She longed for nothing more than to move past the events which haunted her from the Forbidden Lands. But the devastating injury she suffered by Alex's hand had left her scarred mentally. It would be a long time before she was able to forget. It might have been easier for her if she still had her familiar Turok, but now she would have to become familiar with friendly with another familiar. Yet she was certain she would never find another crow which could compare. Crow or not, Turok had won her heart, and Jean had taken